Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. In today's video, we're going to talk about the birth of Islam, how it began in 7th century Arabia, and how it quickly became a major force in history. Birth of Islam, how a desert faith built a civilization. A world history story by the perfect professor. Part 1. A world on the edge of meaning. History often begins in places of power. Empires, capitals, armies. This story does not. It begins in the desert, far from Rome, far from Constantinople, far from the centers of wealth and learning that define the ancient world. And yet, from this barren landscape would emerge a faith that reshaped 3 continents and built one of history's most influential civilizations, the world before Islam. By the 6th century, the Old World was exhausted. The Roman and Persian empires had fought each other for generations. Cities were rich, but spiritually hollow. Religion existed, but fractured, politicized, and distant. The ancient order still stood, but it no longer inspired. Arabia. Outside the empires, Arabia lay beyond imperial control. No emperor ruled it. No standing armies occupied it. No centralized authority unified it. Life revolved around tribes, trade routes, honor, survival. The desert shaped everything. Scarcity bred resilience. Harshness demanded loyalty. Identity was tribal, not universal. A spiritual vacuum. Arabia was not irreligious. It was religiously fragmented. Multiple gods were worshipped. Shrines dotted the land. Rituals existed, but without moral unity. Belief was inherited, not questioned. There was no single ethical framework binding tribes together. Violence was cyclical. Justice was personal. Power belonged to lineage. Mecca, trade, wealth, and inequality. At the heart of Western Arabia stood Mecca, a trading hub, a religious center, a city enriched by pilgrimage and commerce. But wealth concentrated. The powerful prospered. The weak were unprotected. Orphans, widows, and the poor survived at the margins. Order existed. Justice did not. A man without power. Into this world was born a man with no army, no throne, and no ambition for rule. His name was Muhammad, an orphan, a merchant, known for honesty, not authority. Nothing about his early life suggested empire. History rarely announces its turning points in advance. The first revelation. At the age of 40, Muhammad retreated into solitude. In the silence of the desert, something occurred that would redefine history. A message, a command, a call, not to conquer, but to submit to one God, one moral order, one universal truth. This message did not flatter power. It confronted it, a radical idea in a tribal world. The message was simple and dangerous. There is one God. All humans are equal before him. Justice matters more than lineage. The poor have rights. Power carries responsibility. In a tribal society built on hierarchy, this was revolutionary. It challenged tribal privilege, economic exploitation, religious complacency. It offered something new, a universal identity. Resistance was immediate. Mecca's elites understood the threat. This message did not attack them militarily. It attacked their legitimacy. If all humans were equal before God, then inherited power meant nothing. Opposition followed. Ridicule, economic pressure, violence. History repeated itself. Meaning once again threatened power. Professor's reflection. Where civilizations are born. Islam did not begin with conquest. It began with conscience. It did not promise wealth. It did not promise dominance. It promised order where chaos ruled, and meaning where power had failed. Civilizations are not born when armies march. They are born when ideas answer questions no one else can. Part 2, Resistance, Persecution, and the Birth of a Community. New ideas are rarely welcomed by established power. They're questioned. They are ridiculed. And when ridicule fails, they are crushed. Islam's earliest years followed this ancient pattern. Why Mecca felt threatened. The message spreading in Mecca was not abstract theology. It carried consequences. If there was only one god, then idols lost value. If all humans were equal, then tribal hierarchy weakened. If justice mattered, then exploitation became sin. Mecca's elites understood the danger immediately. This belief did not threaten trade routes with swords. It threatened them with morality. Persecution without war. The early followers of Islam were few and vulnerable. They had no armies, no political protection, no external allies. Opposition escalated methodically. Social isolation, economic boycotts, public humiliation, physical violence. Followers were beaten. Families were divided. Lives were made unbearable. This was pressure designed to break belief. Why people did not leave? History asks an obvious question. Why did they stay? Because the message offered something Arabia had never known. A moral framework beyond tribe. For the first time, slaves were told they had dignity. The poor were told they had rights. Women were told they had moral worth. The powerless were told they were seen. Faith replaced lineage. Meaning replaced blood. The first migration. As persecution intensified, a crucial decision was made. Some followers left Mecca, not to conquer, but to survive. They migrated across the Red Sea to a foreign land ruled by a Christian king who offered protection. This moment matters. Islam's first political interaction was not violent. It was diplomatic. Justice, wherever found, was recognized. Isolation hardens conviction. Those who remained faced increasing hardship. Economic sanctions cut them off from trade. Families starved together. Children suffered alongside elders. Yet belief deepened. Shared hardship transformed followers into a community. Not by blood, by conviction. From individuals to ummah. Something new emerged in these years. A concept unheard of in tribal Arabia. The ummah, a community bound by faith, not ancestry. Loyalty shifted, not away from family, but above it. This was revolutionary. It meant identity could be chosen, not inherited. Why this changed everything? Empires rely on territory. Tribes rely on blood. Islam relied on belief. Belief travels. It crosses deserts. It survives exile. It outlives persecution. What began as isolated individuals was becoming a unified social body. That transformation, not military success, was the true foundation of civilization. The cost of conviction. Persecution did not stop. But something else became clear. This belief could not be erased quietly. It demanded a space to exist openly, not as rebels, but as a community. That space would soon appear, and history would accelerate. Professor's reflection: when belief becomes identity. Islam's earliest victory was not political. It was psychological. It taught people to see themselves differently, not as members of tribes competing endlessly, but as participants in a shared moral order. Once identity shifts, history follows. Part 3: Medina and the First Islamic Society. Every belief reaches a moment when it must decide: remain a message or become a society. For Islam, that moment arrived not through conquest, but through migration. The Hijra, leaving power behind. Persecution in Mecca had reached a breaking point. The message could not survive without space. The community could not grow without safety. So a decision was made, not to fight, not to dominate, but to leave. This migration, known as the Hijra, was not an escape. It was a re-beginning, and it would redefine history. A city ready for change. The destination was Yathrib, later known as Medina. Unlike Mecca, Medina was divided. Tribal rivalries simmered. Feuds threatened stability. No single authority unified the city. What Medina needed was not another tribe. It needed order. Muhammad as a mediator, not a conqueror. When Muhammad arrived in Medina, he did not arrive as a king. He arrived as an arbitrator. Different tribes, Muslim, Jewish, and pagan, agreed to recognize him as a neutral authority to resolve disputes. This mattered. Islam did not enter Medina by force. It entered through consent. The Constitution of Medina, one of the most remarkable documents of early Islamic history, emerged here. A social contract, often called the Constitution of Medina, it established collective security, religious freedom, mutual obligations, rule of law above tribal revenge. For the first time in Arabia, loyalty was defined by shared responsibility rather than shared blood. This was not theology. This was governance. From faith to law, Islam now had something it never had before: a society. Belief began to regulate justice, conflict resolution, social welfare, responsibility toward the vulnerable. Charity was formalized. Violence was regulated. Justice replaced revenge. Faith became structure. The end of tribal absolutism. Tribes did not disappear, but they were transformed. Islam allowed tribal identity to exist, without allowing it to dominate. Blood loyalty gave way to moral accountability. This was revolutionary in a desert culture defined by lineage. Why Medina changed everything. Medina proved something unprecedented. A belief could create order without empire. A community could exist without coercion. Law could be rooted in morality. Islam was no longer just preached. It was lived. Conflict becomes inevitable, but coexistence did not eliminate tension.
Mecca watched Medina closely.
Trade routes were threatened. Authority was challenged. A rival moral center had emerged. Conflict was no longer avoidable. History was about to accelerate again. Professor's reflection: civilization begins with consent. Medina shows us how civilizations are truly born, not when power conquers territory, but when communities agree to be governed by shared principles. Islam's first society was not built by armies. It was built by agreement, and that agreement changed the desert forever. Part 4: Conflict, Conquest, and Moral Limits. When belief becomes community and community becomes visible, conflict follows. Not because faith seeks war, but because power feels threatened by meaning it cannot control. Why conflict became inevitable. Medina's stability unsettled Mecca. Trade routes were disrupted. Authority was questioned. A rival moral center now existed outside Meccan control. The leaders of Quraysh understood something crucial. This was no longer a local dispute. It was a challenge to the old order. War without erasing ethics. Conflict followed, but it unfolded differently from the wars Arabia knew. Islam did not permit unrestricted violence. Rules emerged. Non-combatants were protected. Property destruction was limited. Revenge killings were forbidden. Prisoners were treated with restraint. War was allowed but controlled. This mattered because it introduced moral limits to power. Victory without vengeance. Over time, Mecca's resistance weakened. When Muslims eventually entered Mecca, history expected bloodshed. It did not come. There was no massacre, no forced conversions.
No collective punishment.
Amnesty was declared. Old enemies were forgiven. This moment defined Islam's political character. Power was exercised, but not abused. Why this shocked the ancient world. In the ancient world, victory meant humiliation of the defeated. Islam rejected this logic. Strength was demonstrated through restraint. Authority was reinforced through mercy. This was not weakness. It was confidence. From local power to regional force. After Mecca, Arabia changed rapidly. Tribes joined not merely out of fear, but out of recognition. Islam offered a unified moral law, protection for the weak, an end to endless tribal warfare. Order replaced fragmentation. For the first time, Arabia became a coherent political space. Leadership without kingship. Muhammad did not crown himself king. He remained a messenger and a judge. Power existed, but it was limited by accountability. Law stood above lineage. Even leadership answered to principle. This mattered profoundly after his death. Why conquest did not corrupt the message. Expansion is dangerous for belief. It can dilute purpose. Islam resisted this by anchoring authority to law, not personality. Rules outlived leaders. Institutions replaced charisma. That transition prevented immediate collapse. The balance between power and meaning. Islam's early conflicts reveal a rare balance. Force was used, but justified. Victory was achieved, but restrained. Power expanded, but ethics remained central. This balance is why Islam did not remain a regional movement. It became civilizational. Professor's reflection: when power accepts limits. History is filled with conquests. Few are remembered for restraint. Islam's early expansion mattered not because it won battles, but because it proved that power could be exercised without surrendering meaning. That lesson would echo far beyond the desert. Part 5. The death of the Prophet and the test of continuity. Every civilization faces a moment that reveals whether it was built on a person or on principles. For Islam, that moment came suddenly and painfully. The question no one wanted to ask. When Muhammad died, the community was stunned. There was grief. There was disbelief. There was fear. But beneath the sorrow lay a more dangerous question. What happens now? Islam had been guided by a living messenger. Now the messenger was gone. History shows that many movements die at this moment. Islam did not. A faith that prepared for absence. This survival was not accidental. From the beginning, Islam emphasized law over personality, message over messenger. The Prophet was respected, but never worshipped. Authority belonged to God's law, not to a bloodline. This distinction mattered profoundly. When leadership ended, belief remained intact. The first succession. Leadership passed to a successor, not as a prophet, but as a guardian of the community. This role was not divine. It was administrative. The community chose continuity over chaos. Not everyone agreed. Tensions emerged. Debates followed. But the system held. Islam proved it could function without its founder. That is the true test of civilization. From revelation to institution. With revelation complete, interpretation began. Rules were debated. Practices were standardized. Law was clarified. What had once been guided directly now required structure. This was a dangerous transition. Too much rigidity could suffocate belief. Too much flexibility could fragment it. Islam navigated this tension carefully. Why fragmentation did not destroy unity. Disagreements emerged, but they unfolded within a shared framework. The core remained untouched. One God, one moral law, one community. Difference existed. Disintegration did not. This allowed Islam to expand without dissolving. Expansion without losing identity. After the Prophet's death, Islam spread rapidly beyond Arabia. But expansion did not erase internal order. New lands were governed. New peoples integrated. Local cultures absorbed, but core principles preserved. Islam did not demand uniformity. It demanded accountability. Law above leaders. Perhaps the most important legacy of this period was institutional humility. Leaders were powerful but not sacred. Criticism was possible. Law stood above individuals. This prevented the immediate corruption that destroyed many early empires. Power was checked, imperfectly but intentionally. Why the civilization did not collapse. Islam survived its most vulnerable moment because it had already transformed belief into system. When the founder left, the framework remained. This is rare. Most movements end when their voice falls silent. Islam learned to speak collectively. Professor's reflection: when belief outlives the believer. The death of a founder usually marks decline. For Islam, it marked confirmation. It proved that the faith was not sustained by charisma, but by structure, meaning, and shared responsibility. Civilizations that survive leaders survive history. Part 6. From Faith to Civilization. Civilizations are not measured only by territory. They are measured by what they build. After the battles end, Islam's most extraordinary achievement did not occur on the battlefield. It occurred in libraries, courts, cities, and classrooms. From Arabia to a world civilization. Within a single century, the Islamic world stretched across 3 continents. But conquest alone does not explain endurance. Empires rise quickly. Civilizations last slowly. Islam did not erase the cultures it encountered. It engaged them. Greek philosophy was translated. Persian administration was adapted. Indian mathematics was studied. Knowledge was not treated as foreign. It was treated as valuable. Law as the spine of civilization. Islamic civilization organized itself around law. Not arbitrary rule. Not divine kingship, but a system of accountability. Law governed rulers and citizens alike. Justice was idealized, even when imperfectly practiced. This emphasis created stability across vast distances. Where borders shifted, law traveled. Cities of learning. Urban centers flourished. Libraries expanded. Universities formed. Scholars debated theology, medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and philosophy. Learning became an act of devotion. Knowledge was not feared. It was pursued. This intellectual openness allowed Islamic civilization to become a bridge, connecting ancient wisdom to the future. Science without breaking faith. Unlike earlier civilizations that treated faith and inquiry as rivals, Islam framed knowledge as discovery of order. The universe was seen as structured, intelligible, and worthy of study. Observation mattered. Reason mattered. Evidence mattered. This mindset fueled centuries of innovation. Civilization advanced not by rejecting belief, but by grounding curiosity within it. Diversity without collapse.
Islamic civilization governed vast diversity.
Different languages.
Different cultures.
Different traditions. Unity came not from uniformity, but from shared principles. Belief created coherence. Administration managed difference. This balance prevented immediate fragmentation. Why Islam outlasted empires. Many empires expanded faster than Islam. Few endured as long. Islam survived because identity was moral, not ethnic. Law was central, not personality. Knowledge was preserved, not destroyed. Power was constrained, not absolute. Civilization was built to adapt. When decline came, decline did come. No civilization escapes time. But Islam did not vanish when political dominance faded. Its ideas persisted. Its law remained studied. Its contributions endured in science, language, architecture, and thought. Civilizations fade. Legacies remain. What this story teaches the present. The birth of Islam challenges modern assumptions. It shows that civilizations do not require wealth to begin. Ideas matter more than origins. Ethics can shape power. Meaning can unify diversity. It reminds us that history is not only written in capitals. Sometimes it begins in the desert. Final reflection. When meaning builds the world. Islam did not rise because it promised domination. It rose because it answered questions the old world no longer could. About justice. About responsibility. About purpose beyond power. From scarcity emerged structure. From belief emerged law. From desert emerged civilization. Closing words from the perfect professor. History remembers empires that conquered land, but it is shaped by civilizations that organize meaning. The birth of Islam shows us that the most enduring forces in history are not armies. They are ideas disciplined enough to become systems. Lessons from the past. Stories for the present. Before we end, I have a question for you. Which part of the early history of Islam did you find most interesting and why? Comment below. We've reached the end of our discussion on the birth of Islam. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. See you again in the next one. Take care.